You are watching The Intellect with JR on Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Find us on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, and all the social media platforms. How are you doing today? I'm JR. Before we start the show, I would like to formally introduce myself. I used to be out there doing this show beforehand, but I had a small problem. I took a hiatus over the course of time just to get my mind right, get a few things understood. And now that I understand a few more things, I'm back. And I'm back with a vengeance, okay? Let me start by saying we should all, every last one of us, be praying for our president and the first lady. We all know they've contracted COVID-19, which is actually a scourge placed on us from another nation. But we ain't going to get into all that. It's election season, you know what I'm saying? It's time for us to figure out who we want to run the free world. Do we want somebody that's already running it, and in my humble opinion, doing a pretty decent job? Or do we want somebody that has been in politics for 47 years, and being that this is an opinion show, draw your own opinion about 47 months compared to 47 years. But I digress. One of the things we need to talk about real quick, give me a moment. One of the things we need to talk about real quick is how some of us don't look at things from a monolithic standpoint. Okay, for some odd reason, a lot of us are prone to think that we should think alike, like the same things, do the same things, go the same places, but in reality, it's not supposed to be that way. We are all individuals. We all have our own opinion about things, be it religion, politics, and the way we're supposed to raise our kids, the way we live our lives. And a lot of people think in certain political circles that the black community, the vote itself as a monolith, we are supposed to go along with certain things. But again, I digress. Let me introduce you to something. A lot of us have a black book. And for some of us, historically, it's been full of phone numbers, things that we all know goes on. But I got a black book too. My black book is called the Book of Knowledge. If you notice, it's black because I think it should represent a certain line of thinking that has been proven to be a little bit wrong, not in the emotional standpoint of it, but in the essence of it. A lot of us think about politics from an emotional standpoint, and as a member of the black community, I think it has hurt us more than anything else, okay? And when it comes down to what policies better benefit us as a community, sometimes we think more emotional than we should think logical. Now, a lot of us support Black Lives Matter. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Believe me, there is truly nothing wrong with that. But I have to ask a question. And really, you should ask yourself this question too. Do Black Lives Matter in Chicago when every weekend a lot of black lives are taken from us? Should Black Lives Matter in our nation when a lot of our black lives are undereducated, not being served by the educational system at all? Should Black Lives Matter when it comes down to the injustices that take place every day in our community, not outside our community, within our community, okay? Look, you have Baltimore, you have Portland, you have Detroit, you have Seattle, you have LA. And all of these major cities that are basically ran by Democrats with policies that are not conducive to the black community. Now, this isn't something I'm just making up in my head. The numbers speak for themselves. When you have 80% of all, birth control areas like Planned Parenthood being set up in the black community, 80% of those, don't you think something's wrong with that? Or if you have people that tell you you are being held down by another race, doesn't that make you kind of question where you stand in reality? Look, this is America, the land of the free and home of the brave. So, how is it that you can tell me that you're being downtrodden and held down by another man at this day and age? That doesn't make much sense. Now, I've been here a number of years. As you can see, I got a little gray hair in my face and all that other good stuff. But here's the thing. I've been here long enough to have seen a variety of different presidents and been affected by their policies all the way up until the current. The first one I actually can say I dealt with in a living sense, like outside of the womb, was Lyndon Baines Johnson. Okay, he was the vice president of John F. Kennedy. Now, I don't know about what a lot of people may think, but John F. Kennedy was for a strong military, low taxes, and less government involvement in your life. That was a Democrat president. Think about it. It's kind of sound like a Republican platform, if you ask me. But I digress. Look, if you ask any liberal or Democrat today, would they have voted for the nomination of John F. Kennedy under those circumstances, being that he didn't believe in a lot of government involvement in your life, believed in low taxes, believed in a strong military? Do you honestly, in today's day and age, do you honestly believe he would have won the nomination for his party as the Democrat leader? Don't think so. Really don't. But again, I digress. I'm not saying that all Republicans are great. I'm not saying that all Democrats are bad. I'm just saying that today we have such a toxic environment in our political structure. The political body is just like being ripped asunder. And the only people that like really suffer behind that is the black community. Always classical. It's historical. Whenever the government has decided to go a different route in the experiment that they take on in doing this, the black community always suffers. And it's unfortunate that it goes that way. But what is truly unfortunate is that we have opportunistic people that are taking total advantage of something that transpired months ago. Okay, let's talk about the George Floyd situation. Okay, we have a lot of protests taking place across this nation right now. Okay, but they're supposed to be peaceful protests within the constitutional bounds of doing so. But instead, we have riots, we have looting, we have fires, and all at the same time these things are taking place. Question yourself and ask, does black lives really matter? Because you have to remember now, some of these things that's taking place in our nation right now are being sponsored, or shall I say, it appears to be sponsored by Black Lives Matter. Now, what I don't understand is, for these so-called hyper awoke people, referring to corporations, they're giving this movement millions and millions of dollars, and they are openly expressing the fact that they are a Marxist movement. Now, for those that don't know what Marxism is, these people actually, spit out the game that they want to destroy the nuclear family. Okay, that's where the strength of this nation comes from. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge that. A lot of people don't even want to face up to the reality. Okay, but the reality is simply this: the strength of this nation comes from the unity within this nation, and the unity within this nation begins in the family. If the father is there, if the mother is there, and everyone assuming the roles that they initially started. If I'm supposed to be a father, I'm supposed to be with my kids, okay? If you're supposed to be a mother, you're supposed to be with your husband. And if you're supposed to be a husband, you're supposed to be with your wife. Now, if you remember, there was a diabolical plot that was initiated against a lot of people. I'm not going to just say, I'm not going to necessarily say it was the black race, because a lot of people in the hills of West Virginia and in the valleys of Tennessee and Ohio experienced the same thing that we as a race experienced, the black race, okay? And that is lack of mobility. The ability for the government to come in, offer food stamps and monetary means in order to eliminate the father from the household. Now, again, I repeat, this didn't just happen in the black family, but we were the ones that it was like really affecting more than anyone else. Because, you got people in West Virginia that was going through the same thing. You got people in Oakland that was going through the same thing. And guess what? They were not the same color we are right now. Okay? Same color I am. They were of the Caucasian persuasion. But as a nation, if we're supposed to heal our old wounds from slavery and all these other miscellaneous things, let's call a pot like a pot and a kettle a kettle. Let's put all of this in between. Okay? Let's call it like it's supposed to be seen. All right. Now, what happened with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd is tragic. It is horrible, and it should never happen to anyone. But let's not fool ourselves, okay? The reason that these two incidents are more paramount in the American experience right now, right here, is because of the way it's being maneuvered. And I take high offense, total offense at the fact that you cannot go out and peacefully protest the fact of a totally illegal killing and it turned into anarchy. I find it very hard to understand how, if Breonna Taylor is dead, how no one is being punished for this woman's murder. Don't get me wrong, mistakes happen, things go down, but I cannot understand for the life of me why no one has been charged with this woman's murder. Not homicide, not manslaughter, but flat out unadulterated murder. When you begin to unload a firearm inside of a house, even if it's the cop that did get charged with firing his firearm recklessly, from what I understand, he didn't even hit the woman, but she's still dead. What happened to the other cops? I'll give you a moment. I'll wait. Think about it. Okay, time's up. Seems like to me our legal system needs to be completely not the legal system. Let's just say our policing needs to be totally revamped, not defunded. Because the idea of defunding the police only hurts the black community. Because what really drives me crazy about this movement to defund the police is that in this movement to defund the police is being pushed by white liberals with a lot of money in their pockets, they kids. Now, if you live in a gated community, you don't really have too much of a problem calling the police, because hell, as soon as you pick up the phone, they're already at your front door. So, if I live in urban America and the police have been defunded, when somebody's trying to kick down my apartment door and you've defunded the police, guess what? Somebody's going to have a really bad outcome in you kicking down my door. But we also have to ask ourselves, okay, all right, you want to defund the police, okay? You think the police are bad. You think they just the most horrible people on the planet. Okay, what if I agree with you? What if I just say, okay, you got a point and your point is valid. The police are some of the most horrible creatures on the planet with a badge and a gun, and they just want to take away my life. Okay. So, if they are so bad, then please explain to me why you want to take away my gun. You're the ones that are telling me that call the police when you get into trouble. That's why you don't need a gun. But at the same time, you're trying to defund the police and take away my gun. So who in the hell am I going to call when things get bad? The logic behind the ideas the liberals have are detrimental to the black community. Because anytime you have the right to bear arms and someone wants to take that right away from you, what they're saying to you in essence is they want to take away your life or the ability for you to defend your life. Because anytime you tell me at the same time you want to defund the police, which 89% of the calls, if not 90% of the calls the police receive come from black people. But you telling me I don't need the cops. Look, I'm not saying that every last one of the police on this planet is perfect. You can look over in China. They just killing folks over there. But even here, the number of black people that have really bad, interaction with the police is really slim compared to other places in this world. Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Let's be real. But let's just pick out the bad apples instead of grouping them all together. Because that's irrational. That's another mark of, I would say, intelligence. Now remember, this is an opinion show. All right, we do a little news, but we basically deal with opinion, and this is my opinion, is that we are letting people that do not have anything at stake tell us in our communities, all right, that we should just let it go. Do you know when there is no law, there is no peace? I mean, that's the chant that they give. No justice, no peace. Okay? But when you have no law, you have no justice. So again, you have no peace. And if you have no law enforcement, what is your point in trying to defund the police? Now, again, I say that these are, I guess you say, well-meaning, but in my opinion, because remember now, this is an opinion show. This ain't, anything other than that. But if you're supposed to be a well-meaning liberal and you're running up on the police, calling them racist, and you just happen to be a little white girl, I'm quite sure we've all seen this video, it seems kind of crazy to me. You run up on a black man in a police uniform, you white as the driven snow, but you calling him racist? Wait a minute, hold on. Let me say that one more time. You a little white girl running up on a black man in a police uniform. You're yelling and screaming at the top of your lungs, but you call this black man racist. Please, somebody make this make sense to me, because it don't. And it goes along with everything else I've been saying. Politics seem to make some of these people insane. Just because they're not in power, just because the people that they want to follow are weak in their approach towards dealing with any problem that the community has, seems kind of funny. Now, let's just say a couple of things and call those things out like we're supposed to call them, okay? The intellect deals with reality. We don't really deal with fantasy up in here. We deal with what is really the numbers and the facts. And the facts speak wholeheartedly for themselves. It's not as if you got to go and fabricate some stuff or like dig up an idea and then twist it into something and make it look like something. These are the facts. Under the current administration, unemployment in the black community has really dropped. Now we are talking about pre-corona, so don't come at me with this coronavirus and all the black folks unemployed. That's BS. Stop the bull. Before the coronavirus kicked in, the economy had been doing the best it has ever done in the history of this country, and it had grown faster than it has ever grown in the history of this country. Now that means that a lot of those black-owned businesses that got burnt up in Baltimore, a lot of those black-owned businesses that got burnt up in Seattle, a lot of those black-owned businesses that got burnt up, and all of these riots, all of this looting, they were black-owned. They hurt our community. And for what? You're using You're using a tragedy to promote your political agenda. And you're using it on the back of black people to do so. You should be feeling quite ashamed in order to get your point across, in order to make your mark, in order to disintegrate the nuclear family. And we are referring to Black Lives Matter. Look it up. Everything I'm talking to you about, you can Google it. I'm not going to tell you no lie. You can go look it up, and everything that I'm talking to you about is right there in black and white. Now, I'm going to take a moment. I have to do a little housekeeping, so bear with me. There's an event, a free event, and you can get your tickets through Eventbrite. Author Brenda Wilson's daughter of legendary singer Jackie Wilson will be hosting a signing of her new book, The Life of Jackie Wilson. The legend continues. Hey, check her out. I'm telling you, it's a good book. I looked through a few pages. I looked through a few pages, caught my attention. She will have it in the grant room of the Realstar Village Artist Compound, 19730 Ralston, Detroit, Michigan, on October the 10th, 2020, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 5. Now, also, I'd like you to tune in Friday at 9 p.m. with Honey on Cool Cats on WJZZ. Coming soon, there also will be a book club for literacy, starting tomorrow here at WJZZ as well. Now, again, you're watching The Intellect on WJZZ and Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And you'll be able to find us on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, and all of the other social platforms. Now, back to what I was saying. Do you know, I've been here on this planet. I've seen a number of presidents over my course of time. All right. And I made a point of this in one of my other shows, but I want now to make a very clear point of this. I got here in 1967. President at that time, I believe, was Lyndon Baines Johnson. We had just came out the Cuban Missile Crisis with the Soviet Union. Kennedy was the one that was in charge at that time. Now, being that he was in charge, he was going up against Nikita Khrushchev, okay? And Nikita Khrushchev and Kennedy finally came to an arrangement and agreement. Now, we all understand history, all right? But like I said, I got here at a certain time. And now, the book of knowledge will come to you and bring you some information real quick. Now, like I said, I got here in 1967. So the presidents for me were a little different as the presidents for this generation and the big baby boomers. Well, baby boomers, y'all fall in my category as well. But here's the difference. Each president had a certain thing about him. From Tricky Dick Nixon, I'm not a crook, to Gerald Ford, that always was, played out by Chevy Chase as a clumsy ox, always falling down, always tripping on himself, okay? But here's the thing. We're going to address something that is symptomatic in certain political circles. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Because like I said, I got here in 1967. Don't do the math right now. Do it later. I got in 67. I understand what certain presidents said and why they said what they did say at that time. But everybody wants to look at Donald John Trump, President Trump, as the biggest racist on the planet, or some issues with his approach. I think a lot of us are looking at style over substance, okay? That, I believe, is the problem. A lot of us are looking at style over substance. He's like a bull in a china shop. He's not really caring about if he knocks over the Ming vase or if he knocks over this stack of crystal goblets. He really cares more about if he's achieved the goals he set out to achieve. Now, like I said, I got here at a certain time, and the Book of Knowledge speaks for that. I had Lyndon Baines Johnson, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Let me see if I can remember the next one that come without. Oh yeah, Ronald Reagan, George Bush. Then we had Bill Clinton. Then we had another George Bush. Then we had Obama. And now we got Trump. Okay? Now, here's the thing. Each president has said what they had to say. And maybe it didn't sound right, but it was said. And I myself personally look at it like this. Some people show, well, Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time, just check it out. Because it was seen to me that a lot of people don't seem to understand that, and I'm talking about in the black community, of course, that you don't actually have to stay in one line of thinking, okay? You really don't. It's strange to me that you would even think one way when you have the ability to think in a variety of different ways. You have the option of changing your ideas, changing your views, changing your mind. That's what I think a lot of the people, the founding fathers, I think that's what a lot of them guys died over. Is because you have the freedom, the ability to make the choices that you think best suit you. To vote for the candidate that actually benefits you and that actually moves you. Now, if you want to belong to Black Lives Matter, then hey, knock yourself out, bro. I ain't got no beef with you on that. I just feel that if you're a Marxist organization that espounds to the idea that you want to destroy the nuclear family, you want to bring down the government, and in all of this chaos that takes place, my community suffers more than anything else or anyone else. If that's what you want to do, go ahead on. All right. But I also say this. Be wise in the decisions that you make, because some of the decisions that you make, sometimes you sit back and be like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Okay. Perfect example. You got a certain amount of money to pay your rent, but you saw a brand new pair of Jordans that you just had to have. You had to go get them Jordans. You wouldn't got them Jordans. Now guess what? You got an eviction notice. And guess what? You sitting there saying, damn, I wish I wouldn't have did that. It's the same thing in essence. If you know that socialism, communism, Marxism has never worked anywhere in this planet, on this planet, matter of fact, what the hell make you think it's going to work in your own backyard? Seriously. If capitalism and democracy has been the only political structure that has proven itself to be beneficial, I think that should be the one you go with. But I'm not saying it's always been fair, especially to my community. Let's be real. But now, at least we have a president that wants to set up economic zones. Those economic zones are being placed into poor and deprived areas in order for people to be able to grow and able to reach the American dream. And it makes it able for you to move out of the urban areas out to the suburbs. Because guess what? You can't move to the suburbs if you're broke. You need money in your pocket for that, because they got some good living out there, and you ain't going to just do it like that. No, that ain't what's going to happen. Okay? But here's the thing. You have economic growth that takes place in the black community that hasn't taken place in almost 50 years. You have to also remember, here in Detroit, there were riots that took place down there on 14th Street, Rosa Parks and all like that. They had tanks rolling up the street back in 67, okay? 65. And the thing about it is, those businesses, you can go back and look at all the old history reels and stuff like that. Those businesses never returned. They never came back. You can ride down there now and you got a bunch of vacant buildings, a bunch of worn and burnt out warehouses and so on and so forth. They never came back. So when you look at what's going on in Portland and all these other communities right now at this current moment in time, and you see the Family Dollar set ablaze, and a woman comes out and says she don't know where she's going to go to be able to get her normal household goods because there's no other store within the next 5 to 10 miles, then that lets you know that you are injuring your community. If a lady says she don't know where she's going to get her her prescription, her medication from, because some airhead decided he wanted to set the neighborhood pharmacy, only one, set the neighborhood pharmacy on fire again. you damaged our community. And I repeat, it would seem rather strange to me, and this is not a racist statement. Go look at the videos yourself. Why is it that there are a lot of young white kids, white youngsters, 20s, teens, or whatever? These are the ones breaking the glasses of these businesses. These are the ones that's setting them on fire. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's not a few brothers up in there doing what they're doing, but let's be real. There are a lot of Caucasian individuals setting these businesses on fire under the namesake or under the blessing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all these other people that just was wrongfully killed. This is ridiculous, because for no reason whatsoever, should anyone feel that a peaceful protest is supposed to turn into a riot. Under our Constitution, a peaceful protest is legal. Under our Constitution, you can gather together and have an understanding without the government, keyword, without the government interfering in your freedom of assembly. But freedom of assembly is one thing. A riot, looting, killing, that's something totally different. And that does not represent George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the mass of other people who have been wrongly killed by police. Now, having said all that, I think that if you are a presidential candidate, okay, and during the debate, you are asked about a group you know nothing about, talking about the Proud Boys or whatever. And I don't know I have never heard of them before. This is the very first time I heard of them was during the debate between Trump and Biden. Very first time. Never heard of nothing about these guys. Excuse me, I wet my palate. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. Never heard anything about these guys until that time. All right. But it appears the president was in the same boat I was in, because I never heard of him either. And he didn't either. Now, what really gets me about it is apparently these guys are, I guess, a bad group. Okay, I can't speak on them because I haven't even researched them. But all I understand is they're a bad group. Okay. Now, apparently, whatever they're doing is bad. They want to connect that to the current president. But I want to go back in history a little bit. Can we kind of like put the time thing in backwards? Can we go backwards? Can we reverse time for a little bit? All right. Let's just get into our time machine and push time back to let's say 2010. Okay. And we're going to talk about some of the people that are current presidential candidate. Talking about on the other side, we're referring to Vice President Biden, supported at that time. 2010, now we're talking 2010. We ain't talking about now, we're talking 2010. But again, I remind you of what Maya Angelou said. When they show you who they are, believe them the first time. All right? Just keep that in your mind. It's Maya Angelou, black woman, poet, author. All right. Very influential. Joe Biden, Democrat candidate, spoke highly of Robert Byrd. Now, some of y'all might not know who Robert Byrd is. Might have probably forgot about who he was. Guess what? I'm 53. I ain't forgot about him. All right? So I remember who he is. He was West Virginia senator, Democrat. Took his seat in 1959, didn't vacate it till 2010. All right? He's also the cat that filibustered the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And he was a member of the Klan for 40 years. All right? No, hold it. Let me get this right. I ain't talking about nothing but the Ku Klux Klan. The same one that y'all be thinking the current president is with, but it ain't kind of funny. I seen all these folks, Snoop Dogg and the rest of them, before he became president, taking pictures and putting them in rap songs. But I digress. I'm not going to talk about that. But what I am going to talk about is the fact that this man has sat up and spoke highly of someone that actually was openly admitted to be a Klan member. Since the time he got in there, I guess he thought it wasn't politically correct before he passed on to the other side. You know, he openly disavowed the Klan and all these other different things. Okay, I got you on that. I'm with that. Sometimes we have to change our heart. Sometimes we get our minds together. And sometimes we decide to err on the side of right. Which is cool, because that means we all can change our perspective. If this man had been in the Klan for so many years, and he decided all of a sudden that he don't want to be a Klan member no more, then guess what? A lot of y'all can also decide y'all tired of voting for policies that do not help the black community. Think about it. This man wanted to lynch folks. He didn't want folks in there. In 1964, he filibustered the right for the black man to have his civil rights. But he changed his view. Can't you change yours? But I digress. You know, we just gonna deal with what's really going on right now. And what's going on right now is that in a lot of our communities, that line of thinking it permeates us. It's our crutch for us to sit back and say, we've been victimized. We've been brainwashed into thinking that we can't get up and go to work every day. We've been victimized into thinking that somebody got their foot on our throat. We've been victimized into thinking that we have no power in this country. We've been victimized into thinking that this is the way it is. And you're wrong. Y'all claim to be kings and queens. Y'all claim to be the best people on the planet, but yet still, you let other people dictate to you what you're supposed to do. Black Lives Matter, Antifa. All these organizations have, in more than one way, and like all the other organizations, Democrats and Republicans and liberals, all these people have taken the black race as a monolith in this country and have tried to maneuver themselves into controlling you to a certain extent, trying to get you to change your line of thinking, trying to get you to change your line of thought. Now, this isn't just about the black community. Let's not get this twisted. This is about all Americans, okay? Black, white, Hispanic. The only reason I'm referring to the black community because that's the community I belong to, but as a whole, as the nation stands, yes, I'm American 110%. But what I am tired of seeing is a lot of times where we are misled by a lot of the flashiness or the emotion that comes behind politics. I mean, the owner of BET, let's be real. He just said, not too long ago, I think it was this past week, that he'd rather deal with the devil he knows than the devil he don't know. Okay? Check out the interview. Don't go by my word. Just check out what he said. Check out the interview. It was quite clear what he was saying. He was not endorsing one or the other candidate. But when you say you're not voting for Joe Biden, that kind of narrows it down, if you ask me. I don't know. But only thing I'm saying is that we need to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and stop all of this, man. This victimization and going out burning down our communities and walking the streets and rioting, not peacefully protesting. I'm with that part. I'm really with that 110%. But what really gets me is that we need to stop burning up our communities. Now, if we're going to talk about getting where we need to be, let's talk about education, okay? Because education is, this is silly. You want to lock down the schools, keep the kids out. I understand the coronavirus. I understand the president has it. I understand. I truly understand. But do you also understand how adverse this is treating our kids? They're not being able to socially interact with their peers. Not socially distance, just socially interact with them. Trying to be educated in a virtual reality, it leaves a lot to be desired. Now, some communities have it down pat, some communities don't. One community I know don't is the black community. We ain't got that together like that. I hear too many people complaining about, I can't do this, I can't do that. There's no instruction. No one's telling me how to do this. My daughter does this and I don't know. My son does that and I don't know. I can't get any heads up on anything. Okay, maybe I'm crazy, but does this seem to you as if something might have been set up to be designed this way? Just like these mail-in ballots? Don't you think something's designed to be this way? If you can't send your kids to school, a lot of parents are experiencing the problem where they can't go to work. Duh. That means the economy continually stays in the same perpetual state, or it starts to drop off. Now, this nation lives on a symbiotic idea, if you ask me. One thing works on another thing, and another thing works on another thing, and with all those things working together, we're a humming machine. We're just going down that road, we're doing what's got to be done, and every day, we feel good about, at the end of the day, what we've accomplished. There is no more of a greater gratifying feeling when a man can get up and go to work, and at the end of the day come home and feel like you've accomplished something. The same thing applies to a woman. When she done got up and went out and done her thing, made her money, came in, and she feels like, whew, I'm tired, but I have really done my part. You may think of it in a patriotic sense, or you just may think of it in just a prideful way to say, I've done my part. But it makes it hard, difficult, almost extremely impossible right now for a lot of parents to go to work when their child is sitting at home, when their child should be at school. But wait, there's more. When your child is sitting at home and you going to work, maybe your child needs your assistance in some of the work that they have in that classroom, but you can't help her or him because you're at work. Guess what? If they were in school, the help that they need, they would get from the teacher. But since that's not the case, now, do you tell me, honestly, look me in my eye, do you honestly think that when these kids come up for tests, scholastic tests, do you honestly believe that those children will score highly, or do you think they will score poorly? Think about it. I'll give you a minute. Okay, what's your answer? Of course, they will score poorly. But being the case, that only goes to reinforce the point that I've been making for years. The educational system has been dumbed down to a point to where you don't have civics in school anymore. You don't actually have history in school anymore. If we're talking about history, let's really talk about history, okay? Please explain to me why you have all these individuals that are protesting, but yet and still they're tearing down statues. They're tearing down monuments. The one thing that drove me really, really, really nuts, okay? That's really, seriously. Please explain to me why anybody would tear down, if you're a black man or even a white person and you're out here about injustices, why on God's green earth would you tear down the statue of Frederick Douglass? I hear crickets. You hear crickets? I think I hear crickets. Because apparently, the educational system has been dumbed down so far that what you don't understand that Frederick Douglass was one of the smartest black men in his time. Okay? He also was an abolitionist. He also helped form the 54th Massachusetts. All black infantry during the Civil War. I don't think you heard me though. He was a Republican, black Republican, that helped to create the first black regiment during the Civil War. But you don't hear me though. You don't hear me. But you want to tear down that man's statue. But I digress. You are watching The Intellect with JR on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. You can find us on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, and all of the other platforms. But that's where we're going. We're going to get back to the subject at hand. The dumbing down of the educational system leads us to believe that the same liberals that tried to bring to you Ebonics, the same liberals that are telling you right now that you're being downtrodden, held down. They want to erase your history. Because let's be honest, when you tear down a statue of Ulysses S. Grant, that's history. That's reminding you where we came from. If you want to tear down a statue of what Andrew Jackson, again, it's history. It may not be the history you like, but it is the history that you had to go through, or should I say, our forefathers came through. Okay, but for you to tear it down means you want to erase it, and you can't erase something that is already embedded in the fabric of this country. Now, have we been a racist nation? Oh yeah, most definitely. That has never been a doubt. But have we gained ground in the time that slavery and Jim Crow took place? We have gained a lot of ground. Contrary to what a lot of people think, we have gained a lot of ground. And you either look at it from the cup being half full or the cup being half empty. If you are of the mindset that everybody's out to get you, then you got the half cup mentality going on. I can't fool with you. All right, I can't. I just don't want to deal with you because you're on that half cup thing. But if you're saying that the cup is half full, we've made strides, we've made all types of advancements, then yeah, because it's kind of hard. Really, seriously, you gotta ask yourself the question. It's kind of hard to understand how, if this is a symptomatically racist country, systemically racist. Please explain to me how we end up with the first black president. I don't necessarily agree with his politics, but he is the shade that a lot of people see. The black president. If he was a mediocre white guy, it wouldn't be no big issue. If 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 Trump wasn't trying to erase a lot of the things he did, which were detrimental in the political parties, political stream, I ain't saying about historical. Okay, let's get off of that. Don't go historical. But we're talking about what's detrimental. Okay, then a lot of people wouldn't be raising hell because a lot of people think that with him reversing some of the policies, it's actually trying to erase the first black president. That could never happen. That will never happen. But what we have to understand is that the the ideas that these people have, referring to liberals and Democrats, they have never worked in 50 years. I'm not even trying to speak negative about it. I'm just calling it as I see it. What they say, balls and strikes. They never have worked. And if they were going to work, and you have to remember now, we're talking about Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit, all these liberal cities. Now, I got to say one thing. I love Chief Craig. Thank you, man. You all right with me? Because we didn't have all them problems, all right? We didn't have a bunch of looting. We didn't have a bunch of riots going on in the city of Detroit. Because Chief Craig don't play that. And I appreciate Chief Craig. Chief Craig, I love you. You my man, 120 grand and all that. Whenever you want some airtime on this show, please feel free to come down to WJZZ and we'll put you on here and we'll interview you. Because you are the kind of guy I like running the Detroit Police Department. Now, having said all that, I gave a little shout out to the chief of police. Having said all that, I can't necessarily agree with a lot of the other chiefs around this nation. All right, don't get me wrong. A lot of the ones that are experiencing the turmoil, the riots, and stuff like that, they're speaking up on it, and even some of them have resigned due to it. But that's the political structure of this nation right now, and it's sad because it does not benefit. It does not benefit the society as a whole. When you have people burning down your pharmacy, burning down your supermarket, burning down your shoe stores, looting your shoe stores and clothing stores, it doesn't benefit. So, in closing, because it's getting down to that time, and Intellect has definitely enjoyed your attention, but we're going to close out real quick, but I want you to have a little housekeeping thing going on. I want you to understand that we still got some things popping off. Now, again, there's a free event with tickets via Eventbrite. There's an author, Brenda Wilson, daughter of legendary singer Jackie Wilson, will be hosting a sign. Excuse me. Will be hosting a book signing. Okay. The life of Jackie Wilson, the legend continues. She will be at the Grant Room in Ralston Village. Excuse me. I'm sorry. She will be in Ralston Village Artist Compound. Okay, that's at 19730 Ralston, Detroit, Michigan, on October the 10th, 2020. The hours between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Also, please tune in Friday at 9 p.m. with Honey on Cool Cats on WJZZ. Okay. And one more thing, there will be a program coming up for illiteracy, a book club starting tomorrow right here at WJZZ. Hope you all attend. I hope you come down. I hope you support what's going on. Now, that dirty. Now, having said all that, in closing, I would like to tell you guys, we'll be on tomorrow between 2 and 3. And we'll have different topics and different subjects. And I also would like you to know that when it comes to this nation, this politics that we are currently finding ourselves involved in, it's a sad state of affairs when none of us can get an understanding of what people want to do, because they want to control us to a certain extent, but that can't happen. We have to stick strong and firm on what we believe as people, as individuals, and not be caught up in the herd mentality of trying to, I guess you could say, go along with the flow. If we stand as individuals, we are still united as one, because we believe in the things that unite us. Not the things that divide us, but the things that unite us. Harriet Tubman said, I would have freed a million more. No, I'm sorry. Let me get the quote correct. I would have freed 1,000 more if they only knew they were slaves. That is to say, use your mind, feel free. Think like you should think as an individual. Don't be a slave. If you want to vote Democrat, vote Democrat. That's what suits you. If you want to vote Republican, vote Republican. That's what suits you. But use your mind, not your heart. Use a little logic, because that's where we get caught up at all the time. We always use our emotions before we think about our actions. We always sit up here and consider the fact of what should not happen instead of what should happen. So, having said that, I just want you guys to know that the intellect is always going to be here. And we're going to be here fighting with science, with knowledge, with politics, and with whatever it is that catches your attention. Now, we're going to be setting it up to where you guys can call in, share your thoughts. Okay. We'll be setting it up to where you guys can call in, share your thoughts, share your ideas. And again, this is an opinion show, so you can share your opinion. I would love to have the banter back and forth as to what you think and what you feel. But remember, the intellect comes with knowledge. We only kick the real game up in here. So you might want to put your feelings to the side and come with straight knowledge. So, we're going to sign off for now. It's been fun. You are watching The Intellect on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Find us on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube, and all the top social media platforms. I'm JR. This has been The Intellect.